Hello and welcome to Diary of a Common Man. This is episode 15. My name is Salim Lalani and thank you for joining me once again. Last week we discussed Aga Khani follower, a murid, and this week we will categorize the murid. But before that, some housekeeping. Last week we spoke about the campaign funding and the formation of a trust. Volunteers are still working towards establishing the structure. Good news is that I have received some pledges already from a few people. Now I don't know how to thank you, but I'll just say thank you. I'll keep you posted when I have more details about the bank account. Since I began this campaign 3 months ago, I have been very lucky to receive messages of good wishes, prayers to Allah for my health, prayers to Allah for security of my life, comments such as I am so brave, and so on and on and on. Most importantly, I have received prayers to Allah by so many people that may Allah give me success in my campaign. And as I just said, I don't know how to thank you, but I will say thank you. I appreciate. However, a thought has crossed my mind which I would like to share with you. It is very common Islamic belief that Allah wanted to send His final message to mankind. And to achieve this, He inspired the Prophet through His angel. Prophet in turn inspired his family and his companions. That is how Islam began. Now the important thing to note here is Allah did not descend from the skies to deliver the final message. He inspired someone, gave him aql, intelligence, and the niyat, the right intention to complete the task. In the similar way, He has given you and me the aql. All of us have to gather right intention, the niyat, and say to Allah that I thank you for sending Islam. I am now a Muslim and I will work towards protecting it. That you will not only pray, but you will work towards Islam, the cause of Islam, the protection of Islam. Look, prayers have amazing powers, but prayers on their own will do nothing. All Muslims believe how many difficulties the Prophet had to go through to establish Islam. He did not pray and go to bed. In fact, he gave everything he had for the divine mission. Is that what is happening here? Are we doing anything, or are we just praying for Salim and then watch him fight? Remember, Salim also has a life just like you. He has a family just like you. So my message to you is pray, but understand that you also have a responsibility. A responsibility to stop the wrongdoing happening in the name of Islam. Having said this, a few people have already registered as volunteers, but we need many more people to join the campaign if we were to fight a giant. For how long do you think this common man just like you will fight? He's already 60 years of age. Sooner or later he will tire out. He will need help. Remember, Allah will not descend from the skies to complete this mission. He has sent you, the Muslims, to help. You may ask me, how could you help? There are two ways. One is you could donate the funds to the trust account when it opens, and two is you could register as a volunteer. Or you could do both. So please continue to pray for me. It's very important for me, and I'm so lucky that I get so many prayers, but my campaign will not be accomplished, my mission will not be accomplished until you understand your responsibility as a Muslim rather than only praying and appreciating my work. So please help. Remember, you can remain anonymous if you wish. Let us now begin episode 15. Now, Jamaat Khana may be a social club, but it has its own share of genuine worshippers. These are the moments. They may be small in numbers, but I can guarantee you they do exist. And I know them personally. They go to Jamaat Khana morning and evening, say their prayers, and go home. These murids have an emotional, a very affectionate, and almost romantic relationship with their Imam, this spiritual father. Nothing or no one can come between them and the infallible Imam. To hear anything negative about the Imam, doesn't matter how true that is like someone pouring boiling oil in their ears. They just want to hear good things about him, no matter how imaginary or how untrue it may be. Every time a video of the Imam is shown in the Jamaat Khana, you will see tears of joy, pride, and affection rolling down their cheeks. This murid is blissfully oblivious to the wrongdoing that may be going on around him and in the Jamaat Khana. Second category is a Bhagat. Literally, Bhagat means a devout devotee. Very similar to the Momin, but they are attention seekers in the sense that they want everybody to know how knowledgeable they are and how spiritually advanced they are. Whether they are or not, in reality, only God knows, but it is mostly these murids, these bhagats, who spread the fake lore within the system. Fictitious stories, imaginary stories about how Aga Khan is all knowing, stories about miracles that never happened. So, that is basically the creation of your Bhagat. Then the third category is the socializer. Believers in this category fill the Jamaat Khanas around the world, particularly in Western countries. Their motivation to visit a Jamaat Khana is mainly social. In fact, almost social, and maybe a little bit of business networking as well. Friday attracts a big numbers of murids to Jamaat Khana, not because Friday happens to be an important day in Islam, but because it is the beginning of a weekend. What better way to start the weekend with some free socializing? But what is special about this category is they are hypocrites. Most of them, that is, hypocrites, because they know the reality of the system. They know Aga Khan calls himself God. They know money is being taken on every step, which is unaccounted for. They know this, but they will never leave the system for selfish purposes. They want to belong. And to belong, they are willing to mechanically practice the faith. They are willing to blindfold themselves and watch the financial abuse of people and insult to Islam on a daily basis. Let's look at why they have a need to belong. Before I begin, I would like to say that I have socialized with these people all my life. In fact, I was one of them. So I know every vein and artery in their system. They dare not say what they know. in Jamaat Khana, because if they do, they will be outcasted. Nobody will personally come to them and physically throw them out. Nobody will do that, but everybody will disconnect. And this outcasting will not be done by the Imam, but it will be done by none other than the forward looking, educated people, PhDs and the doctors themselves. They will do this, they will practice this ancient practice which is called excommunication. They say to me, I've had many conversations with them over the years. They say, if they are outcast, who will bury them? Who will pray for their soul? And if they don't pray for the soul, guess what? The fear of hell. They say to me that if they are outcast, their children will have to marry outside the system, which some of them, educated people, will put up with, other people will not put up with. If they are outcast, they tell me, with whom will they socialize? How will they show their wealth and their beauty and their fashion? They tell me, if they are outcast, they will be judged and they will be called names. They tell me, if they are outcast, not only them, the innocent children will face the backlash of these educated people. Now we come to the politicians. Now this category is very close to my heart, because there are two types. One politician is a spiritual kind of a politician, and then another is an administrative kind of politician. So whatever your aptitude is, you can basically work in that particular area. So spiritual leaders are those who play the Imam in the Jamaat Khana, and administrative leaders are those who actually run the show for the Imam. And there are plenty of opportunities to serve the Imam in these capacities. Now I was about to say that Aga Khani politician is an amazing creature. You may have heard about people fooling others, but this category will fool himself also. Apart from fooling other people, we have learned that the system is very well organized politically, and everybody wants to be politically correct, and every other person wants to become a position holder or a title holder. And to get there, they will need to play the game of politics, if required, dirty politics. Now, how do I know dirty politics? Because I have actually been a victim of dirty politics so many times, and so many people like me have seen the dirty politics themselves. Now, this politician plays games but calls it service to the Imam. Now you may ask, how is that fooling themselves? It is because he genuinely believes he is serving the Imam, but will ignore the dirty game that he plays. Some don't even realize how dirty they have become playing the game. Anyway, if you want to play a power game in a place of worship, not in a parliament, you should become an Aga Khani. Let me explain this term in a simplistic way. You belong to a religious system. The system has certain rules. You decide to break a rule which threatens to dismantle the system. You will be thrown out. That is excommunication. It is, as I said earlier, it is an ancient practice. Thousands of years ago it was practiced, but it is still well and alive in Aga Khani Jamaat Khana. And don't forget, this is 21st century. This is a practice that denies human being that denies a human being of his basic right of free speech. And the way it works in an Aga Khani Jamaat Khana is Jamaat Khana or the system has certain unwritten rules. One of those unwritten rules is Imam and his institutions cannot be questioned. Full stop. If you decide to break this rule, there are consequences, serious consequences. It is a documented fact that Aga Khan III Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah excommunicated anyone who would challenge his authority. In his days, being excommunicated was nothing less than being sentenced to death, because you would be socially, religiously and financially segregated from the community. Socially, in the sense no one would talk to you. And remember, these are the times when an Aga Khani's whole world is that community. There is no world outside the community. Okay? You are actually thrown out of the community from social viewpoint. Nobody will talk to you, including your family. If they are found to have anything to do with you, they are excommunicated as well. Matrimonial proposals for your children are out of question. Religiously, you are segregated in the sense you are not allowed to enter the Jamaat Khana. And lastly, financially, you are segregated because no one would buy from your shop or lend money to you or have any financial relationship with you. Long story short, next to impossible to survive. Suicide would be the only option if you are excommunicated. And my favorite Imam, genius Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, practiced this ancient system and made sure it worked to his advantage. To him, excommunication was a lock of the prison gate, psychological prison which he built for his murids. He locked them up, and the lock of that prison was excommunication. Nobody would dare think about escaping. No one. Nevertheless, there were people who did dare to challenge Sultan Muhammad Shah. One of them was Ghulam Ali, as I might have mentioned before, and the man disappeared. Never found. The current Aga Khan is not known to have excommunicated anyone personally, but there are provisions in the Ismaili constitution which gives him the power to act appropriately. At this juncture, it is important to understand that there is a difference between leaving the system and questioning it in public. The treatment you receive in the modern age, it will depend on how did you leave. Did you leave on your own free will, or did you make noise whilst you are inside it? So let's understand this. This is a bit complex. Okay. So we'll break this conversation into three scenarios. Scenario 1. I am an Aga Khani and I am a part of the system, obviously, and I have a suspicion that there is something fishy going on. I decide to leave. That is perfectly okay. Almost all people who leave the system belong to this scenario. That is how they leave. They leave quietly because it is a win-win solution. On one hand, you are not compromising your conscience, and on the other hand, you can still maintain the relationships. Scenario 2. Same situation as scenario 1, but this time I don't leave the system. I challenge the authorities whilst I am a murid and I am still inside the system. If I challenge the institution or the imam, I will be outcasted by the system officially. The followers will immediately disconnect from me. But this scenario happens rarely. And scenario 3 almost never happens. It only happens when someone leaves of their own free will and then go out and make noise in the public. That is my kind of a scenario. In my case, followers boycotted me, not the imam or his institutions. The followers actually boycotted me, excommunicated me, but not until I posted my first YouTube video. But why and how did they boycott me? Before I narrate my story, it is important to understand that they fear being outcasted themselves. They are a fearful lot. If they are found to have any relationship with me, they understand the consequences of excommunication. It is this fear which is the foundation of the Aga Khani system. Yes, it is this fear that drives excommunication. It is this fear that denies a human being a right to question the wrongdoing. And the best part of this fear is these people, they fear each other. What will people say? Little do they understand, they are the people. What will people say? If they should come together one day, I would love to see that day whilst I'm alive. But even if I'm not alive, I would really wish that one day will come when they will come together. They'll have enough intelligence to come together and agree that this is not right. Let us not fear each other. Let us be open. Let us have the courage to ask and question openly. The day that happens, the whole system will collapse. In my future episodes, I will share with you my experiences with fear and how did I manage it. Now, I left the system officially in 2014. Within a week of leaving, I invited my friends, my family for a cup of tea. Naive that I was at that time, I thought I could share what I had realized about the system. And also to basically I thought everybody was going to ask me questions. Oh, Salim, why did you leave? So I thought instead of basically explaining my reasons to individuals, why not get them, all my close relatives and my close friends together and just tell them my reasons openly in one go. I was shocked when only one person out of so many invitations accepted my invitation, a friend. A year later, I heard that they did not accept my invitation because I was going to preach Islam. Anyway, I began researching at that time in 2014, and at that point I had good relationships with Aga Khani followers. They didn't come to my meeting, but that didn't stop them from socializing with me, and that didn't stop me from socializing with them. However, during the social interactions, I would speak my mind from 2014 onwards. We would have arguments, sometimes heated arguments, but they did not outcast me until 2021. Towards the beginning of the year 2021, as you know, I posted my first YouTube video and the very next day I was outcasted. Very next day I was outcasted by who? My friends and some of my family members. These are the people with whom I had deep connections for decades. within a day, they distanced themselves from me as if I was a COVID carrier or a leper. But why? Why did they not disconnect with me when I left their Imam back in 2014? Why did they not disconnect when I spoke my mind for years after leaving? Why now? Because when I spoke my mind about their Imam, the doors were closed. No sooner the video came out, everyone ran like rats to protect themselves. And life has shown me a human being at his best when I saw that. And I wanted to share this with you. I'm preparing you for my next series next year. That series is going to be on religions and spirituality. Moral of that story is fear of being outcasted. This fear of being outcasted is much bigger than the Imam for the Aga Khani follower. He can hear bad things about his Imam behind closed doors, not outside. This fear not only terrorizes the followers within the system, but it also terrorizes those who have left. Since this campaign began 3 months ago, I have received so many anonymous phone calls from Aga Khanis who have left. Some of them are my volunteers now. What is their problem? Why would they be so fearful? Problem is not so much them. Problem is they still have family members inside this system and they fear for them. As we just learned, no Aga Khani would want to get out of the prison for reasons we just discussed. Now, when I left on my own free will, people began scratching their heads. After all, I was a staunch Aga Khani follower. In fact, I had served in Aga Khani institutions, indoctrinating people myself. And then I was an active socializer. I took active part in Jamaat Khana activities. I was almost a perfect Aga Khani. Then, when I left, I did not join any religion. So, my departure was very hard to digest. And it is possible that they are still scratching their heads. Now, I get questions from my viewers. How did I manage to give up the faith I was born in? Didn't I think about the social scene? Didn't I think about being outcasted and the consequences of it? Didn't I think about being harmed physically or being killed for speaking out in public? Didn't I think about the legal repercussions? Didn't I think about who will bury me, and so on and on and on and on? Long story short, what they are trying to ask me is, didn't I have the fear of people? Also, after leaving the system, they want to know, how did I manage this massive change from social and religious perspectives? And am I living happily now? As I said earlier, we will discuss fear in future episodes in detail, all sorts of fear, including fear of what will people say. And hopefully I'll be able to help you with my own experiences and management of fear. At this point in time, all I will say is fear is normal. It is an important component of life for survival purposes. But it is the same fear that is manipulated by others to control us. So I guess what I'm saying is we will have to learn how to manage fear. As far as my life after the cult is concerned, obviously it is much better than before, because now I am free. I feel free, I feel fearless, I feel guilt free, my health has improved. And to achieve all this, I must admit that the practice of spirituality has helped me enormously. This is not to say that I am some kind of a saint because I practice a little bit of spirituality. That is not true. The truth is, I still stuff up from time to time. That's all we have for this week. Next week, we will begin our discussion on indoctrination, the powerful tool that religions use to control people. It is mind boggling. Our brain, our mind, and how these people get inside it and how they control it remotely. It is amazing, that discussion. I was waiting for this discussion for so many months. Finally, we are here. So, we will talk about indoctrination next week. In the meanwhile, take care. Goodbye.